Run It Studios is the home of the Run Radio podcast and runradio.net, a podcast and station about the relentless, resilient, and innovative types, inspiring strides in life, business, and beyond. Welcome back to the Run Radio podcast. I'm Trina Wilcox, and my guest, a way that social media can connect people with similar interesting, let's see, how do we word it? I don't want to say complications, but we'll just say autoimmune disorders and chronic conditions have brought us together. I want to welcome Jamie Nicole. You are using your diagnosis with more than one thing as a way to help others. You're a holistic coach, and welcome and talk about it. How is everything happening for you?
How is everything happening for me? Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be able to share my story. I think, with all that I have gone through with the multiple diagnoses, this is way, sort of my testimony and my way of not making it worthwhile, but I didn't go through it for nothing because it's a way for me to give back.
Yes.
So just briefly about myself. Cut me off if you need to, Trina, because sometimes I can talk on and on and on. Like most people, when I began this journey, I was just trying to lose weight. I was doing everything that I was supposed to do. I had some health complications, but because those ran in my family, I just kind of dismissed them, unfortunately. So long story short, I was following someone online who said, if you are doing everything that you think that you need to do, and you're still not able to lose any weight, then you need to go have certain things checked. So one of those things was my liver, and the other was my hormones. And so being the type A personality that I am, I did all my research before I went to the doctor. I had heard some horror stories about women going to the doctor and them being dismissed or not doing the right tests. So I did all my research ahead of time, found a good doctor, even though she was 45 minutes away, that I knew had experience in the areas that I was looking into, and went to her with my binder of what I thought I may have based on my symptoms. And so long story short, I had my first diagnosis of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune disease that impacts my thyroid. Thus, why it didn't matter if I ate a salad or a donut. And I was killing myself in Zumba and still not making any progress. But ironically, if you're familiar with PCOS, I had a lot of the symptoms of PCOS, but it turned out not to be that. And then I also had fatty liver as well. I went to a different doctor, gastroenterologist, to get everything taken care of because I wanted to get my life back on track, and feel optimal every day, and not like I was just trudging through life. At the time, I was working for corporate, and I'm not sure if you've ever been on a job in a situation like I'm there, I'm happy to be there, but I didn't think that was my purpose. And so long story short, after I got my diagnosis and I went back home because the doctor didn't tell me everything, did my own research on the leaky gut, on the Hashimoto's and autoimmune disease, started putting some things in place, was on the right medication, and, within a short period of time, lost a lot of weight, which I know now was a lot of it was attributed to inflammation that comes along with autoimmune disease. It felt like a light bulb came on. I always, when I'm having these conversations, I say, it's almost like if you have never worn glasses before, but you're having problems seeing and you get glasses for the first time. Like, I didn't know how bad my health was until I got better, because for so long that had become the norm. I had gotten used to being tired during the day. I attributed to, going to college. I was, getting my master's, working full time, was married, divorced, had kids. I had a lot going on. So I was tired all the time and wasn't thinking really, it's attributed to my health. It just was the way it was. But I felt so good that I became passionate and was telling my family, did you know all you have to do was XYZ, or you should go get this checked out and make sure that you know everything that's going on with your body. That ultimately led me to getting a certification to become a health coach. So that was in, I believe it was 2016, 2017. But the mistake I made, I don't want to say it's necessarily a mistake. I got back into some of my old habits, right? We addressed the medication, we addressed the food, but oftentimes we don't realize, or I didn't realize at the time, how important those other things were. Stress management, not putting too many things on my plate, making sure that I was getting adequate sleep. And then also too, thinking that I just had that one thing.
Yeah.
So I went through a series of, having my cycle for a year, so I was tired all the time. Fibroid issue. I had an Epstein-Barr flare, which I didn't know at the time that a lot of people with who have had Epstein-Barr in the past, that triggers autoimmune issues. I also didn't know that once you have it, you can have a recurrence of it. So I went through that. And so, Trina, it was a period of, after I got my first diagnosis in 2015, of where I was going through all these steps, trying to figure out what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
The labs for my Hashimoto's were in the functional range. And so I knew it was something else. Every time I went to the doctor, luckily, because I researched that doctor, she would ask me how I felt and not just go off of the labs. And we just kept going. And I had to keep, going back to the doctor and advocating for myself, which is so important. And so long story short, she was like, what was this, 2018? She's like, I think you have narcolepsy. Now, Trina, I didn't think, just to be honest, truth be told, I didn't think that was what it was, because how often do you hear about narcolepsy? And then you only see those depictions that you see in the movies. And I didn't have that, so I didn't think that's what it was. So I was delayed in actually making my appointment. And so long story short, the next year, 2019, I ended up going to a sleep doctor, getting tested for both sleep apnea and narcolepsy, and ended up with a diagnosis of narcolepsy type 2.
Now, what's type 2? What's the difference?
So the difference is with type 1, they have something that's called cataplexy, which is what you would normally see in the movies, where someone is talking, and it could be an extreme emotion anyway. It can be an overly happy emotion or overly sad emotion, and it causes them to have a sort of paralysis.
Okay.
So that was also what I attribute kind of the delay in my diagnosis to. With type 2, that's the only symptom that you don't have.
Oh.
Is the cataplexy. So when I was going through, I was mentioning I'm a Project Sleep ambassador. When I was going through the program, a lot of those people were able to get diagnosed much earlier with their narcolepsy. I didn't get diagnosed with my narcolepsy until I was 39 years old. So just imagine all of those years where I thought I had normal symptoms. They were common, but they weren't normal. I remember when I was thinking back, I've had those symptoms since high school. I was popping no-dos like they were Tic Tacs back then. I was drinking Geritol, and older people, well, maybe it's your iron. I was drinking. You're sleepy all the time. And even when I was going back to do my presentation for that, I was looking in my yearbook. You know how people, they put their memories of what what they do in high school. You know what mine was, Trina? Sleep. What do you like to do on the weekend? Sleep in. Why?
Oh my goodness.
At the time, again, I was very active in high school, and so I just didn't attribute it to any type of issue that I had going on. But again, going back to the Epstein-Barr, I got mono in 9th grade.
Man.
Yeah. So soon after I had the mono in 9th grade is when I started having those particular symptoms. And so again, just on a quest to feel as best as I can. I know that it's chronic. I know I'm going to always have issues, but how can I put systems in place to live optimally and also teach others how to do the same?
Yes.
So that we can have a little bit more control over our lives. The chronic illness for me is, and you know this already, is as much of a mental toll as it is a physical toll, losing yourself and not achieving the goals that you once had set for yourself, but you have to find a new normal. And I've been able to find a new normal with that. And even after that diagnosis, I went back and got a certification to become a certified AIP coach. I was intrigued at the fact that, I didn't know this, again, didn't know this at the time, but narcolepsy is considered an autoimmune disease.
I did not know that either. Interesting.
Yeah, it's more with type 1 than it is type 2, but I met a lot of people with type 2 narcolepsy that also have another autoimmune disease. So I always, when I see people online talk about how tired they were, just my own personal opinion, because I experienced, like, the fatigue that you have with narcolepsy is so much greater than it was when I just had, or at the time I thought just the Hashimoto's. My symptoms weren't as bad then. They progressively got worse as I got older, over time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people should get tested for narcolepsy because the fatigue is debilitating. It's
Wow.
nothing that you can work through, and it's nothing that you can control.
Yeah. Oh, and it's good that you're advocating for that, because you're right. You just usually hear the over exaggerated, comical fall asleep in front of
Yeah,
everybody, and you don't hear about probably what's more common and needs to be made aware of those symptoms to take to your doctor for sure.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And just to catch up to where we are now, it seems like there's a pattern.
Hmm.
Every 4 years. And so 2015 with the Hashimoto's, 2019 diagnosed with narcolepsy. And then last year, long story short, ended up being diagnosed. I know my long story is never short. Ended up being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, having 2 shoulder surgeries last year, August and November.
Boy, you caught
Um,
up with lost time on that. Getting them surgeries right away. Oh my
but
goodness.
again, been having issues with that for years. Didn't know. Not sure if you've ever had this happen. I think you got diagnosed with when you were younger. I go to bed fine. I wake up something I can't move.
Yeah.
So it started like 2015, and I've been not with the narcolepsy, not with the Hashimoto's, not with the other issues that I have. I've been in minor emergency a few times with my shoulders over the years.
Really, and they've never
It
no.
never dawned on me either. The only way,
Wow.
the reason it dawned on me was a couple of things because I was educated in autoimmune disease, so I was kind of familiar. Last year I had a lot going on. I think I went back into that same pattern again, Trina. I don't realize it at the time, but I think a lot of us who have autoimmune disease are those type A personalities. That sometimes we go off on a tangent and we don't focus on sleep because we're focused on the mission, and we put too many things on our plate. And so I was doing a lot of advocacy
Yeah.
in 2023. I was doing a lot of city classes for what we call in Houston complete communities, for those areas that need extra attention and services. And so I think it was maybe March, I got the butterfly rash on my face. Now, mind you, I know I have a lot. I have asthma. I also have severe allergies. So I've had those outbreaks before.
Yeah.
This went on for months.
Oh
And
no.
it was the first time that I could not put anything on my face. I could not wash my face. I could
Ooh.
not go out into the sun, and it lasted for a long period of time. Also, but at the same time, I had lost a bunch of weight in 2021. Finally, figured out what worked for me, and so I was working with the trainer because I'm like, I'm on the proactive
Yeah.
side of things right now. So I lost the weight. I'm like, I wasn't getting a trainer to try to grow my behind or get glutes, but I wanted to make everything stronger,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I'm figuring in my mind, if I'm stronger, I'm less prone to injury.
Yes.
So I'm lifting my weights, I'm hitting PRs and all of that. Trina didn't realize that even though I knew I had issues with one shoulder, slight tear in my rotator cuff, the other one was torn. Didn't even know.
Oh wow. Wow, you were pushing through some
No, no,
pain.
no. I didn't like it. Felt fatigued, but it never hurt.
I see.
So
Okay. Yeah.
when I go back to saying like I woke up, I don't know what happened. Like
Yeah.
that's what happened to my first shoulder. Back in 2018, had a little heartburn. It would wake me up from my sleep. I'm trying to do what the people say online, sleep on my left side. I slept on the shoulder, and I wake up and I couldn't move for 2 days. I had to go to the cryotherapy place in my pajamas because I couldn't take.
You could. Yeah.
Luckily, I knew the owner. But then after then, it would freeze. Like, have you ever heard of frozen shoulder? It
Oh.
was sort of so frozen. Look it up.
Oh.
They said that that's autoimmune related too. It happens a lot with people who have with Hashimoto's, and a lot of my seniors. I teach limited mobility fitness. Thus, the outfit I was explaining today. I just came from a class. Have that to where it'll freeze. It'll come out of the blue. My dad has the same thing. You cannot move the arm. It's one of the most painful things you can ever experience. I have been to minor emergency a couple of times, and then over time it'll unfreeze. So it'll what they consider thaw.
Oh goodness.
And so that would happen so sporadically once a year. Again, I didn't think much of it because it didn't prevent me from doing any of the other things that I wanted. But because last year, because of the rash, my awareness of autoimmune disease, and because the tears were symmetrical,
Yeah.
I went back to the same doctor who diagnosed me with the Hashimoto's. She's a family doctor, but she's also a hormone replacement therapy doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And she's most importantly, she's one that listens.
Yes.
And so I was always able to go in and tell her my symptoms and also suggest the test that I think she should do.
Yeah.
So when she did the test, weirdly enough, I didn't come back with a diagnosis of RA. Initially, it was positive for mixed connective tissue disorder. But we all know how those labs run, and depending on the day and where you are, it could vary, you know. Yep. And so she sent me to a specialist, and they did some additional testing. Sent it off to what they considered a special lab. I believe it was in California, and it came back negative for mixed connective tissue disorder and positive for RA, which does run in my family, along with lupus and a bunch of other autoimmune conditions as well. And then I also have osteoarthritis in my shoulders as well. So
yeah, that secondary osteoarthritis comes right along with it.
Yeah. But my saving grace has been movement, as I mentioned. Also, I'm a fitness instructor. I used to do high intensity exercises. I think I'm going to move from that. For obvious reasons. But I've also got certified in the process of, again, finding myself, trying to find things that are not only helpful for me, but helpful for others that I serve. I got certified in a mobility, fitness format. Mm-hmm. So it's not just for seniors, it's for people who have had surgery, who can't stand. It's chair fitness, but I do a variety of different things depending on the class that I teach. But that I always have said has been my saving grace through this whole process. It kind of saved me, I say, before I knew I needed to be saved, because from a cognitive standpoint with the narcolepsy, it was the only time that I felt normal was when I was teaching or working out.
Yeah.
This was pre-diagnosis.
Yeah.
Pre-medication. I'm in tears daily. Like waking up crying daily, because what happens is, just like with other autoimmune disease, our body attacks a part of our body. So with narcolepsy, my immune system was attacking the portion of my brain that regulates my sleep cycle. So I was extremely tired during the day and then have insomnia at night. Oh. And so at least when I went to class, when I taught, when I ran, the endorphins, that would be the only time that I actually feel like myself.
Like human. And you feel alive. It's
you understand what I'm saying? Like I'm just like struggling. And at this time too, before I was diagnosed with the second one, I was still working a corporate job.
Yeah.
Right. I was, if to put things in perspective, I had become one of the youngest managers of where I was working for the government at the time. I was making well over 6 figures.
Oh, wow.
I had made it to supervisor, but you may know this as well, even if it's not narcolepsy with autoimmune disease, I would have my employees in my office. I'm not sure if you've ever had this, where somebody's talking to you, you hear them, but you don't understand what they're saying. And I think at this time, again, this was like 3 years before my diagnosis, unmedicated. And so I ended up, because of the nature of the job and having to drive around town in Houston traffic, the nature of the work, reading contracts, reading case law, which some of the employees were sleeping anyway with no narcolepsy, because it's just that boring.
Yeah.
I couldn't function at that particular job. Maybe if I was a nurse or had a job where I was walking around. So I ended up stepping down from management, which was a blow to the ego, and another thing that I had to deal with mentally, because I thought I was on one trajectory and my body was telling me no matter what my mind was doing. And then long story short, even after diagnosis, it's such a hard thing sometimes, depending on who they do the studies on.
Mm-hmm.
I was on medication, but they caused more issues.
Yes.
So I'm thinking in the back of my head, type A personality. For a long time, I didn't want to tell people I had the narcolepsy. I was tired, because what is somebody going to tell you? Everybody's tired, Jamie.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hear you're tired.
Right?
We all are. Yeah.
Like I didn't have an official diagnosis.
Yeah.
I thought that I would be able to put on my cape, figure out what it was, fix it before anybody knew.
Yeah.
And so as the days, as the weeks, as the months progressed, and I wasn't, that played with my mental health so bad.
Yes.
And by this time I had stepped down, I was back in the field again. I was no longer a supervisor. We were on COVID, I guess, restrictions and working from home. And again, I would wake up every morning and say a prayer like, God, I just need to be able to function.
Mm-hmm.
And because it had gone on too long, to the point I didn't think I was going to be able to recover from it, just walking from my bedroom to my office one day, anxiety attack, had never had one before, hyperventilating. It was so bad, Trina, mentally, because again, unmedicated, or when I finally did get medicated, it would cause other issues, hormonal issues, which added on to the tiredness.
Yeah.
I couldn't even do my time sheet.
Yeah.
Luckily, because I had built a rapport and a relationship with, everybody there, including my secretary, he would let me slide on the timing of it, but it really did take a toll on me. And I finally was able to find a medication after the fact, but I could no longer do that job. So I ended up having to get medical retirement because, again, as a field agent,
yeah,
in Houston, we always say here, Houston is an hour away from Houston. Because of the insomnia at night, you want me to be in the Woodlands, which is an hour away, in Houston traffic at 8 a.m.?
Yeah.
It had become dangerous. It had become dangerous for me to even leave work.
Yeah. And a
'Cause I'm like,
schedule is also like everything to people like us. You need a schedule. You need to stick to a routine. And to
Yes.
be bouncing around is, I'm sure, was dramatically horrible on your system.
Yes, very much so. And then it was a high stress job.
Yeah.
Should I tell you what it was?
Yeah, go for it.
I remember when working there, I would never say exactly what I did. I would always say that I worked for the Department of Treasury, but I did not work with individuals or small business. I was a revenue agent for large business and international.
Oh.
And so I was a field agent, which added another layer of pressure because our offices weren't our offices at the federal building. Depending on what case that you had, you may be out at the taxpayer's office. And you think about, Houston Oil and Gas, these are these big corporations with the big fancy buildings. And also those big fancy buildings come with glass offices. So Trina, imagine I'm out in the field and I'm just trying to get my work done, but a sleep spell comes on. So now I'm at the taxpayer's office. The auditor, PricewaterhouseCoopers, is next door. The CFO is across the hallway. They don't really want me there. The last thing I need is them taking pictures of me slumped over, sending them to the news talking about IRS agent is asleep on the job, wasting taxpayers' money. It was so stressful. Like I couldn't even eat. So somebody, in our community, we say the itis. You get itis right after you eat. Like I couldn't even eat while I was at work because it was already a struggle for me just to stay awake, period, if I added food on top of that. So now I'm tired and hungry, trying to figure out I need to leave by 3 to avoid 5 o'clock traffic because I can make it a straight shot in 30 minutes, but I cannot sit in traffic. That's dangerous.
So how did you come to the decision? Because it sounds like it would be very difficult to make that realization that you've got to make some changes or your health is just going to be destroyed further. So how did you resolve that?
It was either that or they were going to fire me eventually.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things when you're dealing with taxpayer information that you just can't do. There are deadlines that you just can't not make. Yeah. And again, by the grace of God, I made a couple of those mistakes.
Yeah.
But was able to navigate out of them. And they knew that they knew at the time that I was trying to get either a different job within the same area, because that was an option. And we just talked about that on the podcast with the Arthritis Foundation. That was an option for reasonable accommodation. But they were like, ma'am, I don't think, because again, IRS, contracts, Internal Revenue Code. And because it wasn't a job where it was a pattern, of me
Mhm.
doing the same thing. Every taxpayer, new facts, new law, a new place to go, a new place to visit. And my schedule was not my own. It was a stressful job
Yeah.
without the added burden and complication of having multiple chronic illnesses.
Mhm.
So it was a matter of, if I can't do it to the best of my ability to where what they need and they can't offer me anything else, and if there's a risk of me doing something not intentionally, because one of the things that goes along with narcolepsy sometimes is called automatic behavior. So I could be doing a task and not realize that I'm doing that task or what steps I took to complete the task.
Right.
And so that adds extra time on to doing the task, which again, another added burden, especially for this particular job. Again, maybe if I had another job, it would have been okay. Everything is coded by time.
Mhm.
Like each day, I have to, how much time did you spend on this case, on this issue?
Yeah.
That has to
Yeah.
be meticulous. Thus, the hyperventilating or the anxiety, we're just doing my time. I don't remember what
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Now, in all of
Tell
this,
you, I read it, but do I remember the
yeah,
next time having to read it again? The next, like,
yeah, that's stressful. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
in all of this too, did you ever come down with COVID? And if you did you notice a toll that it took on your autoimmune conditions?
Oddly, no, I never came down with COVID. What
Really?
happened was, now we can debate on whether this was COVID or not.
Mhm.
I got pneumonia like right before, like March 2020. And because I was very in tune with I don't waste any time playing around. As soon I got something in my throat, I'm going to the Ready Clinic at the grocery store
Right.
to see what it is. And so this was a little bit different. I had never had pneumonia before. Had pneumonia. I think I went on Monday to the Ready Clinic. They gave me some meds. Those didn't work. It got worse the next day. Couldn't breathe. Went back the next day. They sent me to the emergency room. And so I stayed there, got some treatment there. But my crazy type A self, I came home, did everything that I knew from the what I had learned from my various certifications. I was walking that Saturday in a 5K.
Yeah.
But that was before everything hit. That was before it was really like on the news. So
Yes.
in retrospect, like I haven't had any major issues since then, but I'm not sure if that was something related or not. I lean to say that it wasn't. But fortunately, because I was able to work from home, my oldest son had already left the house. My daughter, was here, but the schools were closed down as well. I was isolated for most of that time.
Mhm.
So I didn't really have any issues and haven't had any issues since.
Thank goodness. So
Yeah.
you seem like you are functioning well, but as someone who understands what it's like when you're not on, how do you handle the dark times? Because
it's
they come and they come often, and we do our best to, you know, put them, stack them in their neat spot where they belong, but they come tumbling down from time to time.
it's so funny you say that for a few different reasons. Funny and not so funny.
Right.
The funny reason is I told you I just got home from teaching senior fit. And so I love, love, love teaching senior fit because I feel as though, even though they look at me like I'm crazy sometimes because I think I have more ailments than they do, I feel that age group understands more
They
than
get
other
you.
age groups do. And so before I teach, I always talk and I try to, make light up everything. I was like, look, I woke up this morning the last couple of days. I know y'all think I'm Jamie on the go and y'all see me up here, having a good time. I had to rub some icy hot on my feet and put some socks before I got here. Like it was like people assume that all the time. They know because I talk about it all the time. Or my seniors yesterday, like y'all, because it's been raining a lot, Trina, in Texas. And I was just like, after the double shoulder surgeries, we've had double the amount of rain, then a hurricane. And I don't know if you believe in this or not, but when there's something in the air in the Gulf, the barometric pressure, feel it in my shoulders.
Believe it. I don't know if I have to believe it. My body sure tells me something's going on.
And so from that standpoint, I just found it funny. From a more serious standpoint, to your point, how I mentioned that the only time I felt normal was when I was teaching.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I'm at work, school events, I'm at the gym because it had become a high, an endorphin rush. But when people see me on stage, they don't know it's a totally different person.
Yeah.
My kids would mention it because I would be laying in the bed telling my daughter, okay, I need to lay down for 5 minutes. Wake me up to make sure that I can make it to class, or making sure they didn't know I'm making sure that my daughter rode with me so I can stay awake.
Yeah.
They don't know there's been times where I've left work, gone to the ATM by the gym and fallen asleep. So now I have to make sure that every time I stop somewhere, I put my car in park. They see this, vibrant, exuberant person on stage who's giving every last bit of what she has and leaving it there because it's the only time I feel normal. So when I do mention that I'm having issues, or I have to wait until, because again, it's a double-edged sword. The fitness was good for the narcolepsy, not so good on the joints.
Yeah.
Because even before I got official diagnosis, I had knee issues. I've had foot issues. I've been in a brace. I also have plantar fasciitis and used to get shin splints real bad. Right. So to your point, Trina, I don't look like what I go through, but I remember there would be times endorphin rush. I'm teaching, yay, because at that time I like to teach fast because my balance is bad, and so people. So when I do slow movements, right, a little wobbly. If I'm fast, I can play it off. Some days after the endorphin rush, I would have to wait until everybody left because I'm not sure if you've been to like inside a gym or seen they have like a little platform.
Mm-hmm.
Could not step down.
Oh.
It was around the cool downs. I was telling my seniors this morning, if I'm cool, it's over. Once I get warm, everything's moving.
Yeah.
So about the cool down, Trina, I'm like, uh-oh. Liking up. And I'm after class, I'm greeting people. Hey, y'all have a good one. Thank you. Come back. And I literally had to hold on to the stereo to step down one step.
Yeah.
Because also in 2019, same year of the narcolepsy diagnosis, ended up having knee surgery because I had torn meniscus. But because of this,
are you just stitched together? I mean, well, let me see. Are you glued together? I don't get it.
Your question was funny. I don't look like what I've gone through. I don't look like what I go through.
Yeah.
A part of that is due to the mental work that I've had to do.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. And my thought was always, even though it hurts, me teaching at the gym was accountability for me because I had to be there. And I thank God that happened. I thank God that we went on COVID. I don't thank God for COVID, but at that time, I could the time to get certified in the fitness for limited mobility. You don't like, I didn't know how much that was helping me. Like even in between surgeries, I would be able to go back and because I was moving, the movements that we have, that has helped even now. Like when we had the hurricane and I had to be still because we didn't have any power, I was trying to keep cool because it's 90 something degrees in Houston with no AC. My body got so stiff because I didn't teach. Like I have to move. So from the narcolepsy to the arthritis last year, fitness saved me before I knew I needed to be saved. Now, mind you, I'm very aware that the movements that I used to do in my 30s, I probably could. This is what I say, Trina. I probably could, but should I?
But I'm going to protect myself.
You know what I'm saying? Like even after surgery, like I used to be able to go running, go to a bounce fit class. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that. I did that in 2021. It's on these Kango boots. It takes 80% of the pressure off your knees because my knees were bad.
But then your ankles. I tried some of those shoes and they went back. I about broke my neck. I thought they looked cool, but no.
So, but yeah, they work for me. Speaking of braces, like your ankle, like I just got rid of a whole box. Speaking of, you don't look like what you go through. I had an ankle brace, a foot boot.
Just get you a body brace.
It's like a whole medical facility.
I believe you. I fully believe you. We have to wrap this up. I want you to come back next time so you can talk more about all that you do for your clients. Tell people, though, where they can go to start getting in touch with you and knowing more about what you do.
Oh, so no, thank you so much. Yes, you can find me. I'm online at www.naturalhealing.coach. That's not com coach. That's healing as in healthy eating and active living. And I'm also on all social media platforms at Heal Coach, HEALCOACH.
Thank you so much, Jamie Nicole, for sharing your background and sharing your story and strengths too. Come back soon. You can follow along, link over to whichever platform you want to watch or listen from runradio.net.